what is the probability that we're at the bottom layer of that? Very, very small. So if there is a whole bunch of simulations, we're probably not the base level. We're probably just somewhere in there. So this is just a simulation, is the idea. So what's similar in their idea to what I'm saying is, what they're saying is that this space-time and what we're seeing here is not fundamental. There's a deeper reality. And I agree with that. But here's where I disagree. They still adopt a physicalist framework for the whole thing. That base programmer at the very, very bottom, wherever that might be, is in some space and time in some physical world with its own Big Bang or whatever. So it's a physical world. I disagree with that. I'm saying physicalism is fundamentally false. Space-time is fundamentally doomed. Space-time does not exist fundamentally. That's just the wrong framework. Second thing I disagree with. They're assuming that a physical system like a computer, if it's programmed cleverly enough, can create consciousness or the illusion of consciousness. And I deny that. Now, why do I deny that? I have many brilliant friends and colleagues who have mathematical models where they're trying to start with physical systems and boot up consciousness. So, for example, Tononi and Koch have this integrated information theory model of consciousness, where you start with physical systems that have certain integrated information theoretic properties, so certain causal architectures. If you have the right causal architecture with the right kind of integrated information, then that is either identical to or causes consciousness to emerge. But they've not been able to use that theory to even say what the integrated architecture is, the causal architecture is, for even one specific conscious experience, like the taste of a lemon or the smell of garlic. When, I've asked Giulio Tononi a couple times over the years, and recently, in the last 3 years, I asked him, so, nice mathematical theory, so I'm interested in consciousness, so what conscious experience can you explain? Is there any specific conscious experience where you've given me the integrated information circuit for that conscious experience? So we can go test it. This is science after all. Give me the specific prediction of a specific conscious experience with a specific architecture so we can go test it. And you can't. There is none. Not one. And this has been 15, 20 years that they've been working on it. Or there's Stuart. And by the way, these are my colleagues and friends. They're smart people. I'm not saying that the theories are dumb or they're dumb. No, these are brilliant, brilliant people. This is just a hard problem. So Stuart Hameroff, another great guy, friend, theory of microtubules, the quantum states of microtubules having a coherent collapse, and somehow that is identical with or creates conscious experiences. And again, I've asked Stuart in front of an audience at conference, okay, Stuart, well, great. So what's the orchestrated collapse of microtubules that's, like quantum states of microtubules that say, the taste of chocolate? Or can you give me, any one? Is there any particular experience now that you can tell me that what the orchestrated collapse of quantum states is? Can't do it. And that's where the state of play is. There's another one of the idea that consciousness is related to sort of global broadcasting properties of certain computer networks. So if you have some kind of global workspace or global broadcasting system, that somehow is equated to consciousness or creates consciousness. And again, my question there is, okay, great idea. It's a really intriguing idea. So what is the broadcast architecture or the global workspace architecture and precise states that are, the taste of a lemon? What is that? And again, there's literally nothing on the table. So here's the big point. There is no scientific theory that starts with space-time and matter that can predict even one specific conscious experience. Not one. So the idea, and I think it's principled, I think this failure is principled, and the reason is we've mistaken the interface for reality. We've assumed.
What do you mean by principled again?
Principled means that it's not just because you're not smart enough; it's because you started in the wrong place. In other words, you will never get there. Even though these guys have IQ out the wazoo, they're really, really smart. If you start with the wrong place, you just can't solve the problem. And they're assuming that space-time and particles, matter, like quarks and gluons, protons and neutrons, is the fundamental reality. And that we can then somehow get them together in a complicated enough pattern, dynamics, so that you can create consciousness. And I'm saying that that's flawed fundamentally, because space-time is not fundamental and particles are not fundamental. They don't create anything. They're just interface. It's like trying to say, I've got these nice little pixels in my headset, and those pixels are creating all of reality. No, those pixels don't create reality. They're just a data format. In that metaphor is the supercomputer with its megabytes of software and so forth. That's the reality. The pixels are just a data format that I use to simplify that reality. So the simulation hypothesis is still assuming that unconscious space-time and matter is fundamental, and that somehow consciousness could be booted up from unconscious space-time and matter. And I'm saying that I think for principled reasons that can never happen. On the other hand, consciousness, if it's fundamental, can use what we call space-time and matter as just a user interface format. So it's straightforward to get space-time and matter as just a user interface format. So starting with consciousness, I can get space-time and matter, and I've got work to do to show in detail. I mean, for example, I need to show that I can predict from the dynamics of consciousness. I need to be able to predict, say, the scattering amplitude for gluons at the Large Hadron Collider. I need to get it precise. I need to get scattering for all the different particles, gluon-gluon interactions, photon-electron. I need to get all those scattering processes to, n decimal places before I should be taken seriously. That's what we need to do. So there's a lot of work ahead for me to do, and then I'll have lunch. But so there's tons of work. But the idea that you can start with space and time and particles and boot up consciousness, there's not one success there yet. Not one.
Right. So those people, I mean, you guys just have a different theory, it seems, but do all of you guys believe that there is a potential that we do live in a simulation? Just to go back to that?
I think among my